Wait, John, are you hungover too?
I mean, I had a few drinks yesterday, but I feel fine. Uh, Aside from like a light sprain of my ankle, it feels like it's pretty hard to walk on.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I did something to my wrist and I fucked it up recently. I feel like I've definitely either jammed it or sprung it. Dylan, is there a part of your body that you have betrayed in some manner?
Oh yeah, it's all of it.
Yeah.
My body's like, dude, you said you weren't gonna do this anymore. And I'm like, yeah, well, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, we're falling apart as we get older.
Yeah, it's fun. Something to look
Yeah.
forward to for everybody listening to this.
You know what's something else that's good to look forward to? Part 2 of our things that happened to characters that were completely forgotten about later on.
Now that's a
Episode.
There
There you go.
Yeah.
It wasn't forced at all.
Unbelievable.
Hi, welcome to part 2 of this. This is our very first two-parter, which I'm very excited about. So, to do a quick recap, the topic that we are discussing today are a change that occurred to a character that at the time seemed like it was a very big deal, and then it was either undone or completely just forgotten about shortly thereafter and never mentioned again. So last episode we talked about some fundamental changes to the character of Spider-Man that came and went, a completely rebranding of Superman that came and went, and then some stuff that happened in the X-Men world that always just gets forgotten about, like someone becoming a Lord of Hell or somebody becoming a vampire.
I'm glad you did the recap because it's been a week and I've already forgotten what we talked about last week.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were hungover. You spent the whole week drinking.
That's my life. Things are going well for me.
So now that the preamble is out of the way, we can go ahead and hop into the rest of our picks. I have 3 more to potentially choose from, and I will ask you, would you rather hear a DC one or a Marvel one?
Let's go DC, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a character that we have not really talked about a lot, if at all, but it's a character that I have enjoyed in various stints, and that is Wonder Woman. Okay. I have a very on-again, off-again relationship with Wonder Woman, mainly dealing with whoever the creative team seems to be. I was reading her most recent run up until Tom King took over the book, and I fell back off. The last big time I was reading Wonder Woman, however, was in the early 2010s, because issue number 600 came out for Wonder Woman. DC always does really cool things for whenever their big 3 hit their milestones. So like when Batman hit 900 or Superman hit 900, so like 900 issues, because DC is, even though they reset their continuity, they always honor their numbering. So with Wonder Woman, there was an announcement that, I'll be honest with you, ticked off a lot of fans for some of the weirdest reasons I've ever seen. We mentioned this writer a couple episodes ago, but JMS, J. Michael Straczynski, creator of Babylon 5. And when we mentioned him, we talked about how his big earth-shattering new storyline for Superman was Superman's going to walk across the country.
Yes.
And how it wasn't very well received, and eventually he just abandoned the project outright, and it was somebody else's mess to clean up. At the same time, JMS was announced the new writer for Wonder Woman starting issue number 601. Now, what was Wonder Woman's new her new continuity going to be? What was her new storyline? Well, first off, she was getting a brand new costume that was very poorly received because A, she got a leather jacket, and B, and this is still the one that gets me so surprised every time I mention it, they gave her pants. People were so upset that Wonder Woman got pants. So I'm looking at the costume now. The top is a regular sort of like the Wonder Woman red top with the gold W. She's got the wrist bracers, but they're gold and red instead of silver. And she, instead of wearing the star-spangled briefs or the sort of Roman-esque skirt, she is wearing black pants. You would have thought that somebody took these people's dogs outside and shot them in the head in front of them. The fact that they gave Wonder Woman pants. It was unthinkable, the backlash that occurred. And then to add further insult into this injury against Wonder Woman, they had announced they were filming a pilot for a Wonder Woman TV show that was also going to have Carrie Elways in it, of our friend of Princess Bride and Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, they revealed the costume, and wouldn't you know it, wearing pants. People were fucking so upset at the notion of Wonder Woman wearing pants. Just saying it now is so fucking wild to me. Now, personally, I kind of think that was just the target that they got directed to, because before JMS took over and the character got her redesign, the writer was Gail Simone, who we've talked about previously. And a lot of people really enjoyed Gail's writing, especially when you get Gail on comics that center around female characters. That's usually where Gail shines her brightest, because you think of Birds of Prey, even though the Batgirl run in New 52 was a bit controversial for one reason or another, she still wrote that character well because she loved Barbara Gordon. But so you have a fan favorite writer who's leaving the book, and JMS, whose reputation is a bit spotty coming into the book. They had Jim Lee created a whole new costume for her that was not well received. And in this new storyline, that's referred to as Wonder Woman Odyssey, it's essentially a brand new Wonder Woman. So what we know about Wonder Woman is Themyscira, Paradise Island, for the home of the Amazons, is protected by the goddess Aphrodite. And there's like a magical ward that makes the planet unfindable and prevents like certain deities from stepping foot into it. So something happens in the book, and all of the memories and the time of all of this stuff is just gone. It's disappeared forever. It's one day Wonder Woman woke up and she was younger and had no memory of her past whatsoever. The Amazons were living in like New York in like the subway system because Paradise Island was compromised, and they were killed off, and like Queen Hippolyta, her mother, was murdered, and she did not really know that she was Wonder Woman. She had like no memories of her time as Wonder Woman, so she didn't even know her powers. And so it was like this book that would have made it like a really interesting Elseworld title of like a young, angry, modern Diana figuring out what it meant to be Wonder Woman, what it meant to be, a princess of the Amazons, discovering her powers, encountering her villains for the very first time. And instead, it was put in canon, completely erasing the time, everything that ever happened before in canon. And as a result of that, isolating Wonder Woman from the other books. Because she had no interaction with like Superman or Batman or any of the other characters that happened, because that would have required way too much explanation.
Right.
Like Superman would have been like, oh, weird, Themyscira doesn't seem to exist anymore. I wonder what happened to my best friend Diana. And he goes and finds her, and like, oh, she's several years younger, kind of has an attitude, and has no fucking clue who I am.
And she's wearing pants.
And she's wearing pants. So it was it was a controversial storyline in that sense, because it kind of took everything. I mean, you always see it in the solicitations of everything you know about this character is wrong. That's what they did. Everything that made Wonder Woman was gone, and instead you have this essentially a brand new character. So a fun thing happens. JMS'd again and left the book before he finished the storyline. So another writer, I believe it was Phil Hester, had to come in and finish it. which is exactly what happened with the Superman book, with Chris Roberson having to finish JMS's story. So, how do you clean this up? The past has been changed. The character's de-aged. She's figuring out who she is. She's wearing pants, for God's sake. How do you restore the character back to normal?
I know. You
Magic.
turn her into a vampire. More magic.
No. New 52.
Oh.
So the earth-shattering changes to Wonder Woman were completely undone by the earth-shattering changes to Wonder Woman as a result of the New 52, where Wonder Woman Odyssey has never been mentioned or referenced ever again.
I do like that. They're like, how do we fix this? I just will reboot everything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to reboot the whole continuity.
Yeah.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, I mean, that's a way to do it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. They love their reboots, man.
And I will tell you, I believe that is the last time Diana has worn pants.
Thank
But
God
they're
for
comfy and easy to wear.
Yeah, as somebody to summarize it essentially, the problem with Wonder Woman Odyssey is it exists in a vacuum. Nothing that happened before it mattered because they wiped that all away, and nothing that happened after it mattered because it was a whole brand new continuity with the New 52. So this book just is out there and it's a thing. Is it worth reading? From what I understand, Hester like cleaned it up real good, and like there was a lot of like really kind of nice moments. But for the most part, it was also a very graphic and violent book. Like this is an angry woman, Wonder Woman, who's beating the shit out of people. But yeah, like I said, it was a choice.
It sounds really weird.
that.
Really strange to even attempt to do that. Like what? Like why did she have no memory of everything? Like what? How did that work? Was there ever an explanation for it?
I think it was resolved, but even then, the resolution didn't matter because the continuity got reset. And in the New 52, you know, Diana discovers her father is Zeus. In the original continuity, oh boy, how much do you know about Wonder Woman's original continuity? Because it'll be
practically
weird.
Zero.
All right, so Wonder Woman actually used to be a clay statue of a baby, and Hippolyta prayed. Hippolyta prayed to the gods for a child, and they brought the clay statue to life and made her a living, breathing baby, which was the first and last time there was a child on Themyscira. So that is the original continuity. And in New 52, they were like, we're gonna do away with the whole clay baby situation, and she's just a kid that's part god.
Oh, I like the baby one.
All right, John, it's up to you.
Okie doke. Well, this is sort of a weird one because it's an element they brought in that I it's not that it hasn't stuck, but it's like not really been resolved. So it's a bit up in the air still at the moment. But guess what, guys? Peter Parker has a sister.
Oh wait,
shit,
no,
he
I remember
doesn't.
this.
It's a weird one because
Does she wear pants?
Yes, I believe she does.
I hate her already.
Hate
her already. Get rid of her.
So
Bullshit.
this didn't even like come about in the main like Amazing Spider-Man books. This was in a graphic novel called Family Business, where Teresa Parker is initially introduced as like a CIA agent who's gets involved in this whole thing where Kingpin is trying to get into a vault or something, which has something to do with Richard and Mary Parker, which kind of puts Teresa and Peter Parker on the same side, and that's where she sort of reveals that, I'm your long lost sister.
Surprise!
Yeah. And apparently, I guess after the death of Peter's parents, she was for some reason adopted and didn't go to live with Aunt May and Uncle Ben like Peter, and kept a secret for whatever reason. And yeah, and then she comes back in this family business arc, and they sort of team up to go after the Kingpin and stop him from getting whatever's in this vault. But then, sort of in the big final battle, Kingpin reveals, "Oh, wait, you're not really Teresa Parker. You're Teresa Durand." Ha ha ha. I guess he's like manipulated the situation to make her think she's a Parker, so as to get close to Peter, to get him to come to like Cairo, I think it is, where this is all kicking off and where this vault is. Which all it seems really, convoluted and like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But then after this storyline finishes, like after seemingly suggesting that no, she wasn't Peter's sister, of course not. There's like other stuff that happens where um they have like this other mission together, Peter and Teresa, which results in them having to go back in time for reasons that don't really matter at this point. But whilst they go back in time, they end up in like an old safe house of Richard and Mary Parker, which seems to confirm that she is in fact Peter's sister, because they find a birth certificate and everything. And so, yeah, Peter sort of accepts her as his sister. But then there's like another storyline that comes after this called the Chameleon's Conspiracy, where it's suggested that, oh, no, wait, she was basically a sleeper agent who'd been trained from a young age to be like a secret agent, basically. And yeah, it's like suggested she's not who everyone thinks she is, or maybe she is the Parker's daughter, or it's just not very clear like what her true identity is and how she like fits into the Spider-Man sort of mythos. So yeah, it's at the moment it's one of those things which is just completely unresolved and unclear. But I guess it doesn't really matter because she's a character that doesn't really pop up that much and hasn't had that much influence on like the main Spider-Man books at all. Like, when was the last time Spider-Man ever invited her over for dinner or whatever?
Yeah, I remember reading that one, the Cairo one. I don't know if I read the ones after that, but I remember being like, this seems like kind of a big deal that nobody's really taken like a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like I don't remember ever reading anything else with her in it. Maybe like there might have been one other one, but like it really felt like it was just a gimmicky thing they did because they needed to fucking sell some comics. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we have 3 issues that we need to fill. Just give him a sister, whatever.
So the Peter Parker sister thing, I remembered when that was a thing, when it was first like revealed, and it sounds like a very complex con that it's like, oh no, she's a sleeper agent. No, she's not. But maybe she is. Maybe she's a trained actress. I don't know. Could be.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like they don't want to commit to what she actually is. They haven't figured out the plan yet.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Like they were just like, we have this idea, but we don't have a conclusion for it.
So now I'm curious, like, you would think, like, so is she just supposed to be like constantly deep undercover and that's why he doesn't contact her?
I guess, yeah.
Because I'd be like, hey sis, I don't know if you've ever met him, but I have a clone who's like, I guess he's kind of your brother. Anyway, he is mad at me now because he lost his memories, which were my memories, but he's really upset about it. So you might want to look out because he might want to hurt you because of me.
Yeah.
Or like, hey sister, remember my wife? Yeah, she's mad at me, and through circumstances that I've yet to figure out, she's got a new husband and kids, and I don't know if the kids are his or hers or what, That's a whole thing. And if you see me at Thanksgiving, then probably for the best if you don't bring it up.
Mhm.
I don't think he was married whenever the sister was involved.
Oh, was this during the One More Day? I was said One More Band.
One man band.
One Man Band. Was this during the One Man Band when she was with hanging out with Heath Slater?
Boy,
Yeah.
that Spider-Man one man band bit did not get enough recognition.
No.
Yeah, I think it was after One More Day.
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
That is still we talked about One More Day a little bit in part 1, but just the mention of it is so hokey that Mephisto is like, I'll bring your old aunt back to life in exchange for your marriage.
Mhm.
And also real web shooters.
Yeah.
That's just a perk.
Yeah,
I'm
I
taking that from you. You will thank me for it.
I don't want to get into a thing. I don't know if I have talked about this or we will be talking about this at some point, but I fucking hated that whole thing.
And
That
then
whole
they use it as an excuse to bring back Harry Osborn as well.
but it was just bad. And
Yeah.
the after it happened, yeah, like they just like Harry Osborn came back. There was loads of stuff that was left unexplained,
Mhm.
which was silly. The whole thing happening to begin with was silly. I like it doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna make a deal with the devil so that I can bring back my aunt, who's probably gonna die soon anyway, and is not gonna really add anything to the comic. This, not gonna add anything meaningful to the story. How could she? She fucking died in the 90s. Apparently, we covered that in the Clone Saga,
Mhm.
where she didn't really die, but he got over it anyway. You know what I mean? He had other stuff to do.
Controversial take. Maybe it's okay for the old woman to die.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, people die sometimes. You know what I mean?
And
That
honestly, it
happens.
feels like it might be for the best for Peter if he had something he didn't have to focus on as much anymore.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about his fucking. Oh, she's all old. She might fall in the steps. He's got other stuff to worry about.
Yeah, but where's he going to get his supply of wheat cakes from?
He
I
can
thought
make
for a
them
second you
himself,
said,
the
where's
lazy
he gonna?
bastard.
For a second there, I thought you said, where's he gonna get his supply of weed from? And I went, wait, hold on. Is Aunt May his dealer?
Yeah, that's why they brought her back, because they're like, we need to make her cool and hip.
Exactly.
She's
Hey,
skateboards.
Pete, want to smoke a doob with your old aunt?
Yeah, my time in hell made me super cool.
I realized that life can be taken from you, so I'm just gonna get real weird with whatever time I have left.
Yeah, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, in this continuity, Aunt May went to hell, and she hit that kid with a car once and drove away without telling anyone. So
Yeah. Well,
see, and then
apparently everybody goes to hell. She was the Lord of Hell for a while. Remember?
she
Aunt May.
Oh, okay. Dylan, I think it's your turn.
That's the T-shirt.
Oh my god, that's just reminded me of something where she ended up as Galactus's herald as well at one point.
People won't leave that old woman alone.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see why they brought her back. Like, she's so good. Clearly, she's a fucking Herald of Galactus. She's got a lot of worth to the story. What's she doing now? Nobody knows. She's probably dead. Anyway,
Mhm.
I do a thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
your turn.
I only have 2 left, and we kind of touched upon one of them, so we'll do the other one now. Do you guys remember whenever Gambit was death?
Yep.
I've not read it, but I've seen the one panel reveal.
Yes, you've seen the picture. So, Apocalypse, after the M Day, Apocalypse turns up at the Xavier school, and he's like, all right, all the mutants kind of got fucked over there. So now is the best time for me to lead whatever shreds of mutants are left into the future. You need a strong leader like me, because survival of the fittest. You guys survived. Let's see how fit you are. Yada yada. The same old business.
Yeah, the apocalypse bit.
He came. He turns up in like a spaceship that's like a Sphinx with his face on it. which is
Sure.
I love. You know, if you're gonna do it right, and he did. This is why I love Apocalypse. He's, he goes for it. He really does. But I would have to say he made some questionable choices with his horsemen this run. Gambit was going to be Death, his horseman of Death. I think Gambit like volunteered to do it.
Mm.
It was very strange. And, as a member of the Gambit fan club, I was devastated because they fucked him up. They inverted his colors.
Yeah.
Which was
He had
creative.
he had like dark skin and white hair.
Yeah. And he could make poisonous gas, just like coughing from Pokemon. That was part of his death thing. He could like release. He could like. It wasn't that he released toxic gas. He could like manipulate the air around him to make it poisonous or something. It was, typically like ill-defined. It didn't make any sense. And so like that's a major radical shift for this guy in that he no longer looks like Gambit. He looks completely different. And that run ended with like Gambit and Sunfire just going away to kind of find themselves. Now that they've both been altered significantly by Apocalypse, they had to go and run away for a bit. But after that, they were really obviously somebody in Marvel was like, "What the fuck did we do? Why did we allow that to happen?" Which I agree with. Why did they allow this to happen? I don't know. So they tried to fix it, and they kind of had it where he could revert in and out of it, like human form and death form. You know, and then I think they just dropped it.
Yeah.
I don't remember how. John, do you remember how they resolved that?
Not off the top of my head. I think they did just basically.
I feel like they just dropped it. Yeah.
No,
because they were just like, why did we do this?
Haven't there been times where it seemed like his death abilities were coming back? I remember that was hinted at least once or twice.
I feel like
there was a situation where it was hinted.
Yeah,
I just have to say, if that's the case, he really needs to talk to fucking Warren and help Warren out, because he's been struggling with that death transformation for like 30 fucking years.
Right, and again,
knocked that shit out quick.
That never really gets met. Like, I think if you were writing it, that's a story you could write. You could talk about the interaction between one of the least interesting X-Men of all time and Gambit.
You could, it would be a great storyline, because you have that juxtaposition of like, you have the rich kid and then the guy who steals from the rich kid, thief. The billionaire and the thief, and how different they are, and how the millionaire needs the thief's help because he's struggled with this thing that happened to him that the thief was able just to fucking shrug off. Apparently, that's a story.
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I would have.
They've got 100%. Stuff in common, complicated relationship stuff with Warren and his on again, off again thing with Psylocke, and there's stuff you could do.
Yes, exactly. Like the whole process of being fucked up by Apocalypse is something that you would have something to say. It would leave like
Cyclops to fucking cheat on his wife,
right? Which I don't know if that holds up in court.
No, I don't think it does either.
Legally, I don't think that's a great defense. Why did you kill that guy? Oh, well, Apocalypse fucked me up. Oh.
I mean, well, if anything, Warren needs to be worried about that one, because he's killed a lot of people as Archangel.
Well, that's true. But, like clearly there would be some kind of trauma to it. It's a messy business. You could see why those guys would have something to talk about, but instead they're like, whatever. Forget it. Just drop the whole thing. And it's weird that the Archangel thing has stuck with Angel so much that it's literally like the only thing people talk about or think of with Angel. Like that is his identity now. Is that years ago he got fucked up by Apocalypse and he can't let it go. But Gambit has so much other shit going for him that like why would they ever have done this if it's not going to go anywhere, if it's got no purpose, you know?
Yeah.
Very strange. You know, I didn't
Absolutely
like
agree.
it.
I don't blame you. It was
No.
weird.
It
And
was weird.
Well, and I feel like enough time has passed between when this episode comes out and X-Men 97 that we can mention very freely. It does seem like that is a direction that they're going to be taking Gambit in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting if they do a better job of it.
Well, hopefully they do.
And Archangel was in the original X-Men cartoon, so maybe they could have that interaction.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll see.
I have another Marvel one and a DC one.
What did you do last?
I did
What
DC
did you do
last.
last? DC?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, tell me, guys, what do you know about the character Speedball?
Ha! Oh, I know exactly where this is going.
I know you
Yep.
do.
Yeah.
Cool. Because we don't need to go into a whole bunch of juxtaposition, or not juxtaposition, but of exposition. So, to give a little bit, Speedball is a character. His name is Robbie Baldwin, and Speedball, his power that he got from a lab accident that his parents were conducting, is he's super kinetic. So anything that hits him bounces off of him essentially, and he can like create these little orbs of light that basically he just bounces around. That's his deal. And his characterization was always really like carefree and young and whatnot.
Yeah, very happy-go-lucky kind of.
Happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something real quick. A writer I have always enjoyed is Warren Ellis.
Mhm.
And the reason why I enjoy Warren Ellis is he does things like, let's take the guy who's happy-go-lucky and he literally bounces off of stuff, and let's rebrand him as Penance. So, so Robbie is a member of the New Warriors. He was like one of the OG New Warriors, and that was the team that Marvel had of like their teenage young characters in the 90s. They were meant to be kind of like their version of the Teen Titans. And the characterization for Speedball was about the same. Young, happy-go-lucky, whatever. In the early 2000s, one of the relaunches they did for the New Warriors is they made them reality TV stars. So they were superheroes who were doing reality TV stuff. And that segued really nicely into Civil War when the New Warriors inadvertently started the whole mess. There was a superhero fight with a villain named Nitro. Things got out of hand because the New Warriors were showboating for the reality TV show. Nitro, as the name would suggest, blew up, killed 612 people, 60 of them being children.
Yep.
So Speedball survived because of the nature of his powers. He was I think the only one who did. And he comes out of his coma and is arrested for his part of this. He basically caused a whole lot of death and a whole lot of accidents. And Robbie, who was this happy-go-lucky character, was shattered because he was dealing with survivor guilt and regular guilt and straight up PTSD. So naturally what you do with this character is you put him in a secret government Black Ops hit squad team called the Thunderbolts. And so Robbie's powers go away. He doesn't have the ability to create the little bouncing balls of orbs anymore. But Robbie does figure out that he can absorb pain and put it right back out. Kind of like Cable, or not Cable, but Bishop, right? He takes pain and he redirects it back out. So because Robbie is a mentally sound person at this point, Robbie gets a suit commissioned. And the suit is basically like, it looks like a fucked up Cenobite-esque uniform. It's part metal. It's covered in spikes. There's 612 spikes inside of the armor. He's a walking Iron Maiden, essentially. And 60 of those spikes actually penetrate his skin. So he is constantly getting cut and stabbed wearing this uniform because it helps him use his powers. And he rebrands himself as Penance. And he's this very troubled, very unstable individual who Norman Osborn and the the initiative are using to round up superheroes who are not wanting to register for the Superhero Registration Act. It goes to great lengths. I think Norman Osborn, when he eventually takes over in Dark Reign, they go to even further lengths of like the therapy that members have to go through. They intentionally make Robbie's mental illness even worse to keep him in line, because they like basically having him as this weird attack dog. And yeah, that's Robbie in Penance, and you're thinking, wow, that is just a profound shift in character. So he goes back to being Speedball one day. They keep him having the PTSD. He struggles with that a little bit. They put him in after Dark Reign ended, they had these new Avengers titles end up, and there was an Avengers team that was put together by Hank Pym. I think it was Avengers Academy. And Robbie was one of the teachers there, and Robbie's whole deal was like teaching the kids restraint, and he would constantly have like flashbacks to what happened to him, because even though he was better enough to stop wearing the suit of spikes and shit and his powers returned like normal, he still was dealing with the psychological fallout of being responsible for hundreds of deaths. And then eventually, when that series ended, there was another miniseries that he was a small part in, where it dealt with the general public not forgiving him for what happened and him having to deal with like angry mobs. And then there was a New Warriors comic that came out shortly thereafter that featured Kane as Scarlet Spider, to tie back to an earlier episode. Mm-hmm. And I think they may have mentioned what happened in Civil War. And that was really the last time Robbie Baldwin / Speedball had any sort of involvement in anything.
So did they give a reason why he like went from Penance to Speedball again? Like,
I think eventually, like, his mental health just got to a point where it was discovered that it was a mental block that was keeping his powers from working that way. That it was just like all of the guilt and stuff that he was feeling that was blocking that aspect of his powers, and that he was learning to like move on and forgive himself for what happened, because it was an accident at the end of the day. It was Norman Osborn and the others that were basically keeping him in that state of like profound, deep mental illness to keep him in line. Because in a lot of ways, like, he was like a secret. Because I remember there were some issues of like Thunderbolts where he was encountering like old friends, and then they found out it was Speedball, and they'd lose their mind. Like, what the fuck? What happened to Robbie? But yeah, Penance was a playable character in the second Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and I think that was the only outside of the comics appearance that character ever appeared in. I dug Penance, though, because I thought it was an interesting idea to take a character like that and shift it in such a hard direction. And like I said, Warren Ellis is the kind of freak that would be like, yeah, put him in a suit that stabs him 612 times every time he moves.
Why not?
Yeah, I was a big fan of that Thunderbolts run that Warren Ellis had.
Oh, it's an all-timer.
Yeah.
All-timer. The follow-up after it with the Dark Reign stuff was okay, but that run with like Bullseye and everybody, just a team of sociopaths hunting down like former heroes and loving it.
Yeah.
Brutal stuff.
Do you think there's room for Penance to come back again?
I don't think they'll ever bring Penance back.
No.
I think too much time has passed.
Kind of thing.
Well, I think the things that are hindering it is it's been a long time since Penance was around. It's been over a decade probably.
Yeah.
And also, that would mean Speedball having to be prevalent in stories, and that is just not going to happen, you know?
That's true. Fair enough. Okay. Well,
Okay,
on we go.
Wow. For my next one, rather than talk about Spider-Man, I'm going to talk about Gwen Stacy, who who didn't wear pants. She wore miniskirts famously.
Yep.
So let's get that off the table right away.
Good.
Important.
Yeah. So Gwen Stacy was like Peter Parker's dream girl, and then she got murdered by the Green Goblin.
It happens.
Yeah, you can't fight these things. You just got to accept them.
He's gonna accept that a man dressed as a flying goblin will throw your girlfriend off a bridge, and she'll die when you try to save her using your sticky webs. It's just a thing that happens in everybody's life at some point.
Yeah. But there came a point many years later where someone thought, hey, maybe it'd be a good idea if we reveal that Gwen Stacy had an affair with Norman Osborn, the guy who killed her. And not only did they have an affair, but she gave birth to twins as well in secret. And then those twins managed to grow up like super fast. And because of Norman's horrendous influence on them, blamed Peter.
I'm so happy you said that. Not what I was thinking. Because of Norman's ... I went, oh god.
His evil semen.
There it is. That's what the goblin serum is.
Yeah.
Evil semen.
So yeah, they came back, and you had Sarah and Gabriel, and Gabriel, like, especially, was a bit crazy and became the Grey Goblin for a while. And yeah, that was like this whole new thing, which in of itself, like, after this storyline had happened in the comics, like, it was not referred to again by anyone, which is totally understandable, because why would you want to bring this stuff up? Until Nick Spencer's run a few years ago, where I guess he felt the need to try and restore some of Gwen Stacy's honor by revealing that no, actually, she didn't have an affair with Norman Osborn, but it was a case of I think like an AI version of Harry Osborn from when he was obviously a bit mad thanks to the goblin serum in his veins. Like, he had manipulated his dad into believing that he was the father of Sarah and Gabriel, and he had this affair with Gwen Stacy, when really it was just like Mendel Strom had helped clone these two kids, and, like, managed to make them grow up extra quick and stuff. So it was that was basically the reveal, and I think they ended up playing some part in the whole Kindred storyline as well.
Yep.
But it was all a confusing mess, which
Yeah.
I didn't
Very
like
confusing.
at all.
No, I didn't like the end of it. It's so confusing, and like,
Mhm.
I like that he tried to fix that. He tried to fix that, and he tried to fix the also aforementioned the Harry Osborn just back from the dead after
Mm.
One More Day thing. So I admire him trying it, but I think it was so convoluted to begin with that, like, there's probably
Might be
better
best if we
left.
just ignored it.
Yeah. Also, what I really liked about that, when you were talking about the build up, Gwen Stacy give birth to twins in secret. And you're like, that's not easy to do. That's a really hard secret to keep.
He's
Why did you get fat all of a sudden? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
How come you're not fat anymore? Don't worry.
Don't worry about it.
It's fine. You know what I mean?
We did talk a little bit about that with the Sinister 6 episode that we did, because of the reveal of the Grey Goblin being a thing to me.
Yes.
And of course it did give us, that amazingly horrifying Norman Osborn sex face, which is fucking great.
This is evil semen.
Yeah, this evil semen. Jesus Christ.
We're getting so many good t-shirt ideas.
Oh dear.
Can you? I think that.
That's a top seller.
Can you imagine
right there.
the picture for this one?
I mean, is it just going to be that panel of Norman Osborn's face? Is if we do, we just don't say anything to Mike Diodato and we just cut him out of the proceeds?
I mean, that would save me having to draw some kind of representation of Norman Osborn's evil semen.
All right, Dylan,
boy.
it's your turn. What do you got?
You want to move on? You don't want to keep talking about.
This is the second time I think we've mentioned superpowered semen.
Both times from
That's
Spider-Man, right?
2 times is more than I thought we would.
They're both from Spider-Man.
No, the other one was the Flash. Remember?
Oh no, we talked about. Oh, we talked about Spider-Man's radiated semen, I guess, didn't
That's
we?
the third time, man. 3 times. We can't be the Cum podcast. We're trying not to become the X-Men podcast, but we can't become the Cum podcast as a result.
Well, we gotta make a choice. But we gotta stick to our values. What do we want to be? Oh well, you know what? Speaking of X-Men, I think it's about time we talked about the X-Men again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been 5 minutes since we talked about the X-Men, so I'm gonna do it again. We very briefly mentioned this character. I think it was on last week's episode. So far away. But Corey very briefly mentioned Chamber.
Yes.
At some point, who was an X-Man who his power was that his face and chest blew apart. And
just the once though.
Yeah.
It's only good for one trip.
Yeah, you get one go, so make it count. But he had psionic powers or something, and he could blast stuff with his big chest hole,
Yeah.
But like the part of what made Chamber very interesting was it was such an interesting it was an interesting power, because a lot of the time you think mutants are, they're very specifically set up. Like, this guy can shoot ice out of his hands. This guy can fly. Like, they're very, most of them are pretty cool powers. This guy had his fucking face blown apart. Like, it was a really interesting look. It was an interesting concept. I really liked Chamber. I thought it was a really cool character. Very expensive to film, evidently, as we talked about, but a really cool concept. So after the decimation, which we have talked about again, after M-Day, obviously, Chamber lost his powers in M-Day. So obviously, not having a chest,
internal organs,
that would damage you if you lost your ability to survive without the use of that. Because he had like some kind of telepathy and some kind of it was like some kind of psionic energy that people were like, is he actually human, or is he just kind of made up of energy? And that's just like a shell that's containing the energy. Again, very interesting. But if you were to turn into a human and you don't have half your face or most of your chest and internal organs, you might be in trouble. Now, this is where it gets sticky, because they say Beast was able to like look after him, and then they brought him to a hospital and stuff like this. I would argue that if you didn't have any internal organs, you probably you could bring him to the hospital all you wanted.
Yeah,
he's already
you could still bring
dead.
a corpse to the hospital. Yeah.
Yes. He's already dead. I don't know how you can be like, oh, we got to him just in time. Like, there is no time. There's no time. He's dead. He's 100% dead.
He is basically, when he lost his powers, he turned into a jack-o'-lantern. There is no innards inside of him.
There's nothing inside him. We've made this clear, guys.
Just a large gaping hole where a chest and a jaw would be.
So the hospital were able to save him or keep him on life support because I guess they've seen this happen before. Right? They were like, oh, this happens all the time. Bring him to the no internal organs room. You know what I mean? We'll fix him up good. So he was in hospital for a while, and I think he was kidnapped because he was kidnapped by the
Planet Kaba.
the guys who worship Apocalypse, and they did some kind of thing where did they reveal that he was somehow related to some kind of lineage
it
to
came that he had lineage to Apocalypse, and that would make him
Yes.
an appropriate vessel.
Yes,
Yeah.
because Chamber, to his credit, is a vassal for the energy at the moment. He's a chamber for it. So they're like, well, if you want to be a vassal, we'll make you the new Apocalypse, basically. So they somehow have the power to make other people into Apocalypse, which I don't think that's cool, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you like, Christians don't have the power to just make another Jesus.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's not how that works. You can't just I love this guy so much, but I haven't seen him in a while, so we'll just make a new one. You know,
Maybe they were
that's
hoping to make their own personal Jesus, like Depeche
there
Mode.
we go. See that?
There you go.
A little music joke for everybody. So they fix Chamber, they give him a new mouth and a new chest, but the downside is he looks kind of like Apocalypse. Like he's got gray skin and it's all weird, right? So the idea is now that Chamber lost his old powers, the shit that made him interesting, but now he's Apocalypse, which is stupid because there already is an Apocalypse. To do something that radical, that game changing, one would think that there's an end game to that, right? That there's a
Mhm.
story to be told, and the story will be told, but that didn't happen. Instead, Chamber was Apocalypse. They didn't mention it again. And then he went on to the New Warriors with Jubilee
Mm-hmm.
because he had no powers. Even though he had the powers of Apocalypse. They're like, no, no, no. He's got no powers anymore. So he goes on to the New Warriors. And then he went to Utopia, the island of Utopia, that the X-Men used as their haven, safe haven for a while. And something happened with Legion where he kind of like warped reality or something. And so everybody in that sphere was affected by it. And then whenever reality returned to normal, Chamber was just fine. Chamber was Chamber again.
Yes.
Because again, that's not how this works. But
Mm.
that's it. So the whole Apocalypse thing never brought up, didn't go anywhere. It was completely pointless. And then Chamber just got back his powers anyway. So the whole him being one of the X-Men that lost their powers in the decimation, also pointless. I thought that was such a weird way to handle this character, and it's all kind of come around where like it made no difference whatsoever.
Mm.
Absolutely no difference, and it'll never get mentioned. Nobody's gonna be like, remember that time you were Apocalypse? It's just gone.
So I was reading an article of CBR posting. CBR wrote an article about this before of like one of X-Men's characters have a surprise connection to Apocalypse. And it mentioned like X-Men Red being like the book that's going to focus on Arakko and like all of the mutants that are like from and revere Apocalypse. And they're like, maybe Chamber will play an important aspect in that because of his brother relationship to Apocalypse. Nope, no, he will not.
Mm.
Forgotten about.
Yeah, he was so when they first announced the New Mutants book in the Krakoa era, Chamber was a member of that team. And then like after six-ish episodes, but issues, the book just became a New Mutants book, and it just focused on like, Danny and Karma and the regular cast of characters that were in the New Mutants book, and like Chamber just got forgotten about
Again. Or Chamber.
But yeah,
doesn't
did
get
you ever,
the
when you
respect
were
he
looking
deserves.
stuff up, did you find anything like suggesting there was going to be a storyline and it just never came about, or?
No.
Nothing.
I don't think so. I really just think they did it and then just immediately dropped it. Like
Do
they
you
had
think it
no
was
end
like the
game.
writer was just a really big fan of Chamber, and they were like, I don't want the character to just be on life support. Can I just? I'll make one issue that way he's like walking around fine, and then I'll feel better for it.
What what if that's like they kept bringing him to like fights and stuff, and they just wheeled him out in a big hospital bed, and he couldn't
Is it
even
like
do
fast and
anything. Like he has no
tank?
powers, but they're like, it's just nice to have him here.
I just feel better with him being around.
Yeah, I like it. I want Chamber to be part of the action, so I'm gonna bring him into a war zone. He's
Yeah, the bed's
almost
got
dead,
wings, it's fine.
you know.
He's practically
Uh,
dead.
yeah, I just really
So-
like him.
All right, I got my last one,
Okay.
and this one could be considered the biggest one of them because it ties into a thing that almost happened but didn't, but it still happened to a degree. So, have I ever talked to you guys about 5G?
No,
Did you?
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
so.
I don't know.
So, the COVID pandemic took a lot of things from us. Many people lost years of their lives. Some people lost their lives entirely. But the one thing we did gain was that 5G didn't happen. so, so DC Comics had this idea. This was as the new 52 had already been undone and Rebirth had launched, and it was looking like it was going to be a good thing. Dan DiDio, who at the time was the chief editor of DC Comics, had this idea of we are going to move the time scale forward. We're going to fast forward through a few years, and in the intervening years, all of the heroes that you know today have retired, and new people have taken their spots. And they had already been kind of hinting at it and suggesting it, but the big ones were Jonathan Kent, Superman's son, was going to take the place of his father as the Superman. Yara Flores was a character they created as the new Wonder Girl, as she was an Amazonian, but a secret tribe of the Amazons that actually existed in the Amazon rainforest. So there was like a secret group of Themyscirans that actually were in the Amazon, and she was like the best and strongest of them. She was going to graduate to become Wonder Woman. And the last one, Batman. So what we know about the Batman is that there have been multiple Robins. Each Robin seemingly the one that could eventually replace him. We've seen Dick Grayson act as Robin. There was a time where Jason Todd was wearing a Batman costume, even Tim Drake. And of course, there's the future that Grant Morrison wrote in Batman issue number 666, which is in the future, an apocalyptic future where Damian is Batman. So who is going to be the new Batman? You have all of these different options. What if I told you it was going to be Lucius Fox's his estranged son Jace Fox was going to be the new Batman?
It's got to be somebody. It makes sense.
Sure. Do you guys know who Lucius Fox is?
Yes.
Yes, Morgan Freeman.
Correct.
Yes, Morgan Freeman. Cool. So Lucius was the guy who basically helped Batman, Bruce Wayne, create like all of the gadgets and shit, because he was like this very intelligent inventor who worked for Wayne Industries. He has children, and the better known of them is he has a son named Luke, I believe, and Luke is a character who is known as Batwing. He kind of has like his own suit. He's part of the Outsiders team with Batwoman. That's a whole thing. However, Timothy Jace Fox, because they called him Jace because there's already a Tim in the Batman lore. Jace was the rebellious kid. He partied, he drank, he did drugs. He apparently joined a crime group called the Terrible Trio, where he was the Vulture. And when Infinite Frontier, which was part of the reboot for Rebirth, came about, Jace was brought back. So he was mentioned. He was in the 1970s, and then he stopped appearing entirely for about 30, 40 years. He comes back here. as Lucius Fox's disappointment son. And through a series of events, Jace finds one of the old bat suits in an abandoned area of Wayne Enterprises, takes up the mantle of Batman, goes to New York City, and starts to fight crime in New York as this different Batman. And so that was supposed to be the future of Batman in 5G. Was Bruce Wayne's retired. The Batman is Jace Fox, who at the time of the series that he was introduced in was operating out of New York, but I presume was going to be operating out of Gotham. And, a bunch of other characters were going to be changed as well. But when that plan fell apart due to the COVID pandemic and DC writing, basically undoing whatever plans there were, Jace stuck around because Jace was being written by John Ridley, who is a very successful writer who actually has won Academy Awards for adapting screenplays. So he's a very, like I said, very accomplished writer. And you do not want to go to this person who you got to come writing for you, who's won like the highest awards you can get for writing, and telling him, actually, no, plans change. We don't really need you after all. So Jace stuck around for a series of miniseries and a title. So we have Future State, The Next Batman, Batman by John Ridley, The Next Batman, Second Son, I Am Batman, and I Am Batman Volume 2. So he was around for about 20-ish issues or so. And the last mention of Jace Fox as Batman was in March of 2023. And there have been no announcements for him, no new series for him. Would you like to take a hazard and guess how many times Bruce Wayne has interacted with Jace Fox?
4.
0. That's what I was going to say.
Bruce has had no interaction with Jace Fox, despite the fact that there is a guy dressed like him fighting crime in New York, which you think would be a bit more of a problem for him, but
right.
It wasn't. So this was essentially like DC's weird attempt at like having their cake and trying to eat it too, where like we have this acclaimed writer, we want him to put something out so we can say that this Academy Award winning writer is written for us. But we're not going to honor these plans anymore because it doesn't fall in line with what we're doing. So he existed in a bubble, kind of like Wonder Woman Odyssey. Nothing that came before it mattered. Nothing that came after it seems to have mattered. It's just a thing that occurred. And nobody's said anything about Jace Fox ever since.
That's weird.
Incredibly.
He just find a Batman costume, like, oh, that's all you need.
Yep, yep. So, I mean, there's some more to it, like how he was involved in the Wayne family and why he decided to put on the costume and how he felt it was his fault and whatnot. But at the end of the day, he's a guy who found the Batman suit.
Yeah, I don't think that qualifies you to be Batman. Although yeah. I don't know what does qualify you to be Batman. He just did it one day. He's like, I'll be Batman. And be like, all right, that's fair. Work away.
Yeah. I think the only character that had any sort of major interactions with him was John Kent, who at the time was acting as Superman because Clark was trapped on an alien planet that had neutralized his powers. So the only interaction with him was the character that was supposed to originally replace his dad but didn't.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just a big old nothing. And to be honest with you, like I said, everything I've seen from 5G, it was going to fail. Because here's the thing about comic book writers, especially DC comic book writers, we don't handle change well. We're not crazy about it. So like the New 52 is rough as it is for some characters, and like you're suggesting that like every character that we like is going to be gone. Because like I mentioned the Aquaman miniseries in the last episode that got canceled after one issue. That was supposed to be leading up to 5G as well, because it was all about Aqualad and his journey to replace Arthur as Aquaman. Just mental. Like they thought this was going to be the great idea, and it just, no, not at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I
So,
can't really
John,
explain it.
your turn.
So this was like one I haven't really fleshed out much or done a whole lot of research for, but this was my like keep in the back pocket in case I need it one. And this isn't Spider-Man related, but it is X-Men related because of course. But yeah, this is Jean Grey, like during the era where the original five were brought to the future. Like there's a lot of weird stuff that happened during this period, but like one of the weird things that happened was she was basically put on trial by the Shia, who wanted to punish her basically for her future crimes as the Phoenix, and I guess like prevent those crimes from happening if they could find her guilty and then sentence her to death while she was at this young age. But yeah, she was basically put on trial, and I guess she randomly has this new power appear where she can absorb psionic energy, and she turns into this like pinky purple energy creature, basically like still in human form, but like just she's completely like purple, I guess. And it gives her extra power, which she uses to beat up Gladiator. And
For Gladiator, he's like the
yeah,
jobber of all like X-Men characters. He's presented as this big fucking deal, but usually everybody beats the shit out of him to show how tough they are.
yeah. Well, you know, he shouldn't have that mohawk in this day and age. So
It's true. It's
You got
true.
against punk rock.
hey,
He doesn't listen to punk rock. Look at him.
nah,
The poser.
definitely
Are you
not.
calling him a poser? Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's listening
I'll
to
fight
good
him. Everybody else is
X-Men
fighting him. I'll fight
hardcore.
him. You know?
Fight him right now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Anyway, you were
apparently
saying Jean Grey's got a bubblegum psychic energy monster form now.
yeah, something to do with combining her telepathy and telekinesis, but who cares? Because it's never factored into any books after this run. So, like, what was the point of giving her a new power in the first place?
Well, we
I
talked a
don't
bit
remember
about
this.
yeah. Well, because there was also Angel from that period of time. He got his wings removed because he went through like the Black Mirror or whatever the fuck it was called, and came out with like cosmic wings that made him fly faster. So I was looking this up for the Cyclops episode for like just the history and stuff. When Cable was like sending the like young Cable was like sending people back in time. Apparently, he did surgery on Angel to give him his feathery wings back in an explanation that I did not ask questions about because I knew that there were not going to be sufficient answers.
Cable operated on
Yes.
Archangel?
Yeah. No. He. So young Angel, the one that came from the past to the present, went through a cosmic magic mirror that he came out with these like cosmic wings that were like kind of metal and made out of like light or whatever.
Yeah.
And before he could be sent to the past, young Cable, like the 13, 14-year-old Cable, apparently surgically replaced the cosmic wings with regular wings, but then where the fuck did those come from is my question. Whose wings did he just steal?
I like how you're like, with regular wings. I'm like, regular wings for humans? Like, what do you mean? Right?
Yeah. Just a pigeon. He found a pigeon. So
Yeah,
he's got these
like-
little wings.
Yeah. Like airplane wings. What are you talking about here? Anyway, that's besides the point. No, I had never heard of this Jean Grey thing before. That's interesting.
Yeah, why would you have heard of it? It happened in one book ever, and then
never
that
again.
was it. Yeah.
Yeah. What book was
Do you think someone would have brought it up to Jean when they ran into her in the present day? Like, hey, by the way, have you ever tried doing this?
Yeah.
This is going to sound weird to say. It feels like the only thing that happened in the Young X-Men book that stayed in continuity was the reveal that Iceman was gay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, none of the characters seem to have retained any like memories or feel any impact of what happened. No one's like physical appearance was altered in any way. Like you would
Yep.
expect, like, let's say that, like, I don't know, Angel got punched in the mouth and he lost some teeth. Like present day Angel would like cough and his teeth would fall out of his mouth or something like that.
Yeah.
Like there
Yeah.
seemed to be no impact except for like Iceman realizing he liked boys.
Like in those books as well, Beast becomes like almost like a mage as well.
he
He
learns
gets
magic.
into magic, yeah. And then no mention of it whatsoever.
Right. Wouldn't Beast in the future know magic?
Yeah, although I guess Beast is a problematic character as it is, so maybe.
Yeah, he had some stuff going on.
Yeah.
He's busy.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a whole thing. That's wild. As if Jean Grey wasn't powerful enough.
Exactly. Yeah, she
Yeah,
doesn't
like,
need
no-
any new
Yeah,
powers.
let's stick around with this. Give her some more stuff to do. Like she's got loads of stuff to do. She's really powerful.
All right.
Like
well,
you said,
that was our
there's
first-
plenty of other fucking, things people could talk about. So if you're listening to this and you've one that we haven't said, which is likely because there's so many of them, leave them in the comments, and we'll definitely read them.
Absolutely.
100%.
I read every single comment that gets left.
I've read every comment that's been left on our video so far.
Yeah, so just stay at it. Keep
Yeah.
leaving us comments. Give us stuff to do.
Yeah.
Let us know what's going on, and remember to post Cement Our Marriage under a Limp Bizkit video today if you haven't already.
You gotta do it once a day.
Now, John, we're breaking the canon here because I always ask you what number movie you're on, and not to break the immersion, but we did immediately start recording this one after this. So by chance, have you been watching a movie the entire time we've been recording?
No, but I mean, I can predict how many I'll have watched in a week, so
Yes, go ahead and do that.
I'm gonna say
And ignore the fact
on.
we're going to be recording more tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm up to 339 movies.
There you go.
Ooh,
There you go.
amazing.
Well, everybody, this has been fun. We will hear back from you soon, and you'll hear back from us even sooner. So behave yourselves and enjoy.
Watch out for evil semen.
We really
Everywhere.
can't become the Cum Podcast. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Rubber.